everyone, welcome to the stream. We're gonna get started. Today, we're going back to our ELO climb videos. Yesterday we did a video to help beginners get a little bit better at chess, people between 100 and 750 ELO. As a reminder, if you are in that beginning ELO range and you want help on your game and free coaching advice, make sure to tune in on Saturday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time. Today we're getting back to our ELO climb. We're trying to get to 1,300 ELOs, the next milestone. We're trying to get to 1,500 by the end of the year. So that means by the end of this month, to stay on track, we need to be at 1,250 ELO. So let's see what we're going to do. I imagine we're going to... We're not going to win all of our games. I imagine we're going to slide back here and there, but we'll see what we can do. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. And we'll see what happens. Playing black, so we'll see if we can do a Caro-Kann. Starting with c6. And we have a Caro-Kann. Which variation do we have? Hold on 1 second here. My browser did a weird thing. Oh, there we go. Okay, perfect. We get an advanced Caro-Kann variation. So we have a couple things that we can do here. We can either go ahead and play c5 right away, or the other variation is getting the bishop out to f5. I like playing c5 right away when we see this sort of variation. c5 is one of the main lines in the advance, and we'll see what they do. Are they going to take, or are they going to reinforce? They're going to reinforce. We're going to play knight to c6, applying more pressure. They go ahead and they put the bishop over here. Thing is, in this situation, they really can't bring their knight too well to where it wants to go. So, in this case, I'm just going to bring the queen out. I guess they can bring their knight over to the corner. Yeah, that should all be fine. They take. Now we need to decide what to take with. I'm going to take with... I'm thinking the b pawn. B takes on c6. I'm thinking that because... I mean, I could go either way. I could take it with the queen as well, and then technically my pawn structure is very solid. But I like kind of aiming on keeping my gaze on b2 there. So for that reason here, I am going to take and double up the pawns. Doubling up the pawns isn't really going to be troublesome because this pawn here is going to die. I'm either going to trade it off here, or they're going to go this way with it. So this pawn, it's not going to be a doubled pawn for very long. Now, I imagine too, some people end up doing bishop to e3 in this line, just to add more pressure here. Then if I take, they can take with the bishop, threaten the queen right away. I would like them to play knight to f3, because in the Caro-Kann, a very thematic thing, there we go, is to develop this bishop to g4 and pin the knight. And then as soon as it's out of the pawn chain, we go ahead and close it up with e6. Of course, we don't wait around on e6, because if something happens to this bishop, they could push e6 themselves, and then that would force us to double up the pawns in front of our king, which would be really bad. So we're going to go ahead and play e6 now. It also opens up our bishop to look at c5, because very soon here we're probably going to relieve some of the tension and take on d4. Queen comes out to d3. I'm doing a little think. I think before taking here, I can't draw lines. Before taking there, I might develop my develop my knight. So I'm thinking about knight hopping to e7 so that I can get to f5 and just further clamp down on this. Maybe. At the same time, there's an argument for just taking right now, and then taking. There's definitely that argument for not waiting around at all and just doing it right now. Yeah, right now seems good. There we go. Now we're a pawn up. And I guess we could be 2 pawns up, but I think I might go ahead and kill off that knight right away. Yeah, I can kill it. They can't retake. It's just a free knight. If they take, the rook falls, so they can't take it. Okay, that just gives me that, doesn't it? Okay, this also does nothing. I can take whatever pawn I want at this point. I think maybe in the center's just fine. So it's either going to be queen takes on e5 or queen takes on a2. So let's take a moment and kind of consider. Queen captures a2, I don't love, because the queen is kind of off on the side of the board, versus queen captures e5, it stays very central. And then our plan, so they're probably going to go ahead and put their rook down on the 7th rank, which looks pretty good. So for us then, we're just going to have to... we're just going to have to get castled ASAP. But, yeah, I'm not really too worried here. So just get castled. And they're still trying. They are still trying. That's crazy. So I think I have to go queen to f5 now, because my bishop is hanging if I do nothing. So I'm gonna move queen to f5, and then that way it keeps an eye on this bishop. I suppose my other idea is I could play queen to f6. Actually, in this situation, queen to f6 is kind of interesting. Because if I do queen f5, they could... Oh, that'd be a horrible idea, though. I was going to say they could push a pawn in front of their king, but that just looks horrible for king safety. I don't know. Yeah, it's not great, is it? So, my moves are either going to be... candidate moves are either queen to f5 or queen to f6. Both look fine, I guess. And both keep an eye on this bishop so their queen can't go away. Hey, good morning. Good morning, Lars. How are you doing? I'm gonna move... thing is, queen f6, it also blocks my, my knight in, but I could see in this line maybe jumping the knight to e7, maybe in this line, just not taking any chances. So I might go here. Okay, you took. I will take. They are really thirsting for my queen. Dude is thirsty. Dude is so thirsty, they really want my queen. Well, now I'm thinking if I put my queen down on d6, I'm pinning the rook to the queen, and I might end up winning the queen in that circumstance, although... yeah, you know what, that's pretty safe. I was gonna say they could put me in check if my queen is here, and then they could win the queen with a discovered check. But the thing is, the queen also controls that square, so I'm not too concerned with it. Yeah. So I am gonna end up moving my queen to, d6. And now this rook is pinned, so they better move their queen out of the way, or else they're going to end up in some trouble. So we'll see what happens. Okay, they moved their queen up. I really just want to do some trades right now, I think. Problem is... Actually, I want to get developed. We're going to get developed, and then we're going to do some trades. Yeah, so... Some more development. I do want to, like, I would like to trade... okay, that's also nothing. So... Okay, I'm pretty sure that's nothing, unless I'm missing some huge tactic. I'm just gonna go ahead and do some trades. Alright, that's a good move. I think now we want to do some more trades. But this pawn is a little weak in that position. So I don't want to do that right away. So I think we should probably avoid any back rank mate ideas. Yeah, back rank mate, I'm not really feeling that, so now it's just a question of what to do next. We're going to move our h-pawn. It's either h6 or h5. There's zero king safety over here. If I really needed to, I could get it, like, I'm pretty sure I could stalemate them in a worst case scenario. What I think I can do here is force a queen trade. So let's force a queen trade. I'm going to go to b1. And then we're going to move here to e4 and just force a queen trade. Alright, and yeah, I think we'll just go ahead and now start moving our king. They should probably resign. I don't think there's any point in continuing. Also good to note, this is my highest rated opponent that I've played against. Yeah. Am I worried about that? Not really. I think I'll just bring my king up. I mean, I have such a huge pawn majority plus the knight. Like, also remember, don't give move suggestions during a live game. You can give suggestions and things after the game, but yeah, we don't want to do that during the game. I'm gonna move my my king to g6 in the end game. It's really important to bring your king into play as soon as possible. Plus, I kind of want this square later for my knight, just so it can guard against any counterplay with the king trying to attack e4. If I brought it in right away, sure, I guess I could have done that, but I just feel like I wanted to first move to yeah, first get my my king moved up a little into position. Okay, that's fine. They can take. Alright, let's see. Can they catch me if I move there? I don't think they can. I mean, they'd have to drop everything and go back, and yeah, I don't think they can actually catch me. you lost. Okay, GG. That was the highest rated opponent in a live game. I guess I played higher rated opponents, like matchmaking wise, people issuing challenges to me, but that's the highest rated opponent I've ever played in a live matchup, so very cool. We're gonna go ahead and do a game review on that and see how we did, and yeah, so let's check it out. We play. Oh my god, okay. We played a 92.3% accuracy. I can deal with that. Let's see how we did at different points of the game. My big fat head is in the way. Let me try to move it aside. Fishy says we played a estimated rating of 2050. But Fishy is prone to exaggerate and lie in those game ratings, so I don't pay too close attention to that. But let's see. Accuracy in our opening was 94%, and in our middle game, we had 86.8%, compared to our opponent that had 92% in the opening and 68% in the middle game. So we really outplayed our opponent in the middle game. Let's take a look and review and see what we did, and we can kind of go over, give some teaching moments for anyone who is interested in stream and playing the Caro-Kann, or, you know, knows of it but doesn't know all the lines. So anytime at all I see like almost any opening and I'm playing black, I will play the Caro-Kann against it, or at least play c6, inviting them to enter into the Caro-Kann with me. So if they played, maybe if the first move they played was d4 and I played c6, it might not turn out to be a Caro-Kann. They could always play a Queen's Gambit type thing with a move like c4, and then after d5 it becomes the Slav defense instead of the Caro, which I always thought was really weird when I was lower rated. I'm like, what difference does it make? It's a Caro-Kann either way. When they do play an early c4 though, it drastically changes everything in how you're going to play the Caro-Kann. So it's really, like, it's crazy how much just one single pawn move in the opening changes the entire dynamic of the game. So that did not happen. They went into a Caro-Kann with me, and they decided the advanced variation. And I would say the advanced variation is more common once you get above 1,000 elo. Below 1,000 elo, most of the time people are going to end up taking, so they'll do the exchange. You retake with c-pawn, maybe they get their knight out to attack, you develop your knight, and yeah, it's pretty good. But we go with the advanced variation, which is one of the more testing lines, I feel, for black to have to deal with. So in this line, you have two choices. You can either push c5 right away, asking white what are they going to do about d4, because if you can attack and get rid of the d4 pawn, this other pawn will fall soon after. And then your other option, if you don't want to go for an immediate push to c5, you can play bishop to f5, and then close up the pawn chain, and that's like the most traditional main line of the advanced variation. I don't like doing that because I get better positions when my bishop is on g4. So part of this whole thing that I do is delaying so that I can induce my opponent into playing f3, knight f3. That way c4 is a great move. So I played c5 right away, book move. After pushing c5, they can also just take right away if they want. Yeah, there's all kinds of variations, but most likely they end up defending it with c3, or much more likely is for them to push their knight to f3 right now and defend. Pushing c3, I think, is a little bit of an I mean, it says it's a book move, but I feel like it's a bit of an inaccuracy because your knight really would want to get to c3 ideally, so if I don't take right away, it's just making the development of this knight a little awkward. So anyway, we go ahead and develop our knight to c6. This is giving more firepower aimed at d4. They pin the knight to the king. And here there's some different ideas. You can just push a6 right away and ask the bishop what are they actually doing there. I played queen to b6. I don't know if that's the best move. Engine says it's okay. You can get into some danger here. A lot of times, if this pawn isn't on c3, they can just play knight to c3 right now, developing the knight and defending the bishop. So they couldn't do that as easily. Most of the time when you ask this bishop what it's doing, though, like either through pawn a6 or queen out, the bishop is just going to end up taking on c6, like 9 times out of 10. So that's fine. And I think in chat we were asked, we were asked, won't the double pawn be troublesome? So we could have taken with the queen. As you see, taking with the pawn is actually the best move in this situation. Yeah, you don't want to double pawns. That's 100% true. And also this pawn here, if I take, it turns into a backwards pawn, which means that later on the opponent can target it, which they did. They tried. We ended up defending it with our knight in the game, but it's something to be aware of. As I said, the reason why I didn't do it is because this square is amazing for our queen, because we have eyes on the d4 square, so we're applying pressure on d4, which is really what we want. We're also applying pressure to b2, so this bishop cannot move away from b2 without an attack coming, and then I'm going to be threatening their rook. So that's one of the things, once you like to get to a little bit higher elo chess out of beginner territory, you have to kind of look for... You basically have to apply as much pressure as possible and create multiple threats. And if you just apply the pressure, eventually, most of the time, your opponent will crack. And this is the highest rated opponent in a live game I've beaten, and I beat them, I felt like, pretty easily through just good chess principles. So that's another point in our favor in terms of good chess principles. Don't do any crazy gambits, or, don't do crazy gambits, don't do crazy sacrifices. Most of the time they're not needed. I'd think twice about doing any crazy stuff. If your brain tells you, hey, do this crazy thing, take a second thought. Take a second to think. Anyway, so, tangent aside, we take with the pawn on c6. They bring their knight out, and this is where what I was talking about. Like, in this situation, we waited around to develop our light-squared bishop until they played knight to f3. Because now we can go ahead and fork the knight. The engine is saying that's an inaccuracy. I'm sure, I'm 100% sure that the engine in this circumstance wants us to play our bishop to f5. But it doesn't really matter a whole lot. I'm choosing to go with, like, thematic ideas. That is to say, ideas that are in theme with the opening, and bishop to g4 is in theme with the opening. In a lot of lower rated games, I would say even, I think I had a game even in my 1100s where this happened, where I took on d4 eventually, and they forgot that their knight was pinned, and they ended up retaking, and I captured the queen. It doesn't happen all the time, but that's definitely a fun possibility where your opponent will get pressured and forget, and then you'll take their queen. Most of the time, though, our bishop is here to die, which I know sounds horrible, because I'm commanding an army and I'm just sending people to their death, and doesn't that make me a horrible red panda? Yeah, I'm a horrible red panda. Yeah, just now figuring that out. But The point is, usually the bishop is just going to sacrifice itself for the knight, regardless. We're not going to take the knight usually unless we're provoked, or we have a really good reason to do it. But eventually, this bishop in the Caro-Kann is always going to sacrifice itself. Well, not totally sacrifice itself, just kamikaze itself, I guess, into that knight. Yeah. I mean, the other reason why you do this is because once you close up your pawn chain here with e6, your light squared bishop has a real difficult time getting in and out of your pawn chain. Like, it can't really get around. I can't draw lines. Silly red pandas can't draw lines. But the bishop, once you close the pawn chain, it can't really get around and bounce around in the position. It's just stuck in this corner, really. So that's why, again, it's not the best bishop ever in this position. You're really going to want to value your dark squared bishop, because with a lot of your pawns on light squares, your dark squared bishop is going to be able to get around. Also, with your pawns on light squares, your opponent's dark squared bishop, if uncontested, will become a monster. And we don't want any bishop monsters. Bishop monsters are the worst. So we don't deal with that. They went ahead and castled there. We closed up the pawn chain. Yeah, I know that it's the wrong move according to the engine to close up the pawn chain there, but believe me, like, say this bishop wasn't here, and they end up pushing their pawn to e6 themselves, and then we're forced to take. I know this wouldn't happen with the bishop here, but I'm just saying as an example, like, if we don't remember to close up the pawn chain before getting rid of the bishop, we're left with these double pawns. We can't, like, it really stifles our development, and it makes our king safety really, really spotty. So, yeah, we don't want that, which is why, in this situation, again, just good rule of thumb, once your bishop's outside the pawn chain, close it up, even if it isn't considered the best move. Queen out. At this point, we kind of did some thinking. I was thinking initially candidate move of going knight e7 to wrap it around to g6. Sorry, not g6 in this case. e7 to f5. That way we could add more firepower, just more pressure, because we're just amping up the pressure. But I kind of went on the idea that if I took right now with the bishop, they wouldn't want to take with their pawn and expose their king. They'd probably want to take with the queen, and if they took with the queen, they'd remove a defender from d4. So that's another idea for being more of an intermediate chess player, is removing defenders. If you can get, like, one of the defenders sidetracked into something else, then we can go ahead and we can take on d4. And we saw my opponent is really a high-rated opponent, but you can see too, like, a lot of times when someone messes up, it just leads to a whole series of blunders. They get really frazzled, and they kind of lose their minds a little bit. And I mean, that's not just for other people. I think that's human psychology. We're not like bots. I also would get really frazzled here, and I'd have to really force myself to take some time. Speaking of time, real quick, I just want to point out that my opponent at this point in the game is over their starting time. They started with 15 minutes. They're over their time, so they're not using their time wisely. So, also, apologies if I go through these game reviews in kind of mind-numbing detail. So, I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry, because this is how you learn and how you get really good at chess. You get really good at chess by observing and really taking the time to go through your games and review them. Even if you don't have the engine available, like if you're a free member and you don't have, like, you're not a premium member and you don't have access to game reviews, you can still go through and really take a think and figure out what went well and what didn't go well. Yeah, I hear you there. When winning is, like, the worst pressure, I feel like, because the game's not over till it's over, and a lot of times when you get a winning position, your opponent is going to fight even harder because there's nothing really left for them to lose. They've already kind of lost the house or most of it, so they're just playing. It's like a cornered animal. They're playing out of desperation, and also just they've got nothing else. Why not just throw the kitchen sink at it? So yeah, those are the sometimes games that where you're completely winning are the ones that are actually the hardest to win. Even this game I was playing, the entire time I was thinking in the back of my head that, you know, I'm just one blunder away. You know, like if I made one blunder, that'd be it, and that'd feel horrible. Like that'd be so sad. I'd turn into Grump Red Panda. Thankfully that didn't happen. But yeah, no, you're not the only one. That's it's very easy to blunder when you're winning. So we had to be extra careful. So we played d4, and at this point our opponent did kind of get a little tilted, I felt. Like, they really seemed to really be thirsting for my queen quite a bit. They really wanted that queen. They wanted to, like, do it some harm over everything else. Another inaccuracy for the position by the engine, but I don't care what the engine says here. I care if the engine is telling me that something is a full-on mistake, like if there's a question mark near it. That's what I care about. In inaccuracy, though, like, the fact is, I can tell you exactly what I was thinking in getting rid of this. I got rid of this because I didn't think the queen would take. Which, I mean, the queen could take, obviously. But I thought to myself, well, if they blundered once and they kind of made a little mistake, they might get frazzled and they might retake with their pawn, and that might just become a free rook in the corner. So I was going kind of off of them getting frazzled. That, and I was ahead at this point, albeit just by a little. And once you're ahead, trading is usually a good idea. And I just didn't want any counterplay from that knight. Knights, especially in the end game, can be just really annoying. I'm sure if you've gotten to an end game with 1 or 2 knights, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, 2 knights in the end game is just too many variables to keep track of. Like, even a really experienced player trying to calculate for all their knight jumps and how that can wreck your day is not something we want. So I just decided here I didn't want that knight around as we approached an endgame, so I just got rid of it. So those are the 2 reasons why I got rid of the knight. And here we can see, like, it was a free, like, not a free bishop, but they should have taken it. Like, clearly they should have just taken it. Obviously this would have been a mistake, but I was counting on them otherwise capturing with their queen. They didn't even do that. Instead, they, you know, like I said, they are so busy now thirsting for my queen. And now, they blundered. That's a full-on mistake. It allows us just to go ahead and take this pawn that was attacking our bishop. They found the best move. Again, we looked at our candidate moves here. We just played logical chess. We didn't, again, nothing fancy. We just saw this and said, okay, well, we attacked some vulnerabilities in their position. Our queen is under attack. We have to do something. We gotta move it off of this file. So where do we move it? And the only place we did not want to move it, I would say, is c3, because there could be a little rook fork action going on there, forking the queen and the bishop. So yeah, we went ahead and took on e5, which ultimately was our reason for taking d4, was to get rid of these pawns in the center. Yeah, definitely. Counterattacking is something that a lot of people under 1000 elo really haven't mastered. I'd say counterattacking is good. Just, I've seen too many times where people will counterattack, but also be like hanging lots of their pieces at the same time, and it becomes this kind of crazy house of cards. But yeah, if you can counterattack, you don't want to be totally passive, because chess is about, you know, as we saw here, it's about creating threats and about pressuring your opponent. And if you're totally passive and not giving any pressure to your opponent, they can just walk all over you and do whatever they want. So you have to be annoying, and you have to pressure your opponent. Alright, so they played the best move, which in that case was to threaten the queen. I decided to move to, I think, queen f6, which it considers another inaccuracy. I'm betting here it's going to tell me f5 was a better move. Yeah, it did. So, again, another situation where we kind of like talked that through during our game. I was mentioning how overall the knight would really want to come to f6. Do I really want to block the knight in? But as we saw in this case, all roads lead to Rome, like when you are this far ahead. So I wasn't concerned about it. Also, the fishy engine didn't, Mr. Stockfish didn't sort of realize it, but the other reason why I was okay putting my queen here is because I knew this pawn was weak and that I might want to defend it by jumping the knight to e7. So Fishy really didn't foresee that one for some reason. Alright, queen captured over there. That allowed me to retake my bishop. That was the other reason I was keeping an eye on the bishop. I really wanted to save this bishop, or at least trade it off, so happy so far. Yeah. Now, their plan right now in threatening the queen is they're trying to gain some tempo on my queen. I have to move. They're going to double their rooks. I mean, even if I didn't know the outcome of the game, that's like the logical thing that they do at this point. That's the only thing they have. Because the only way into my position, because of how strong and, like, perfect my pawns are, the only way into the position, really, is through the b-file. So, stacking the rooks there looks like the only thing they've got. And so, really, they need to stack and do something before I'm able to castle. And, yeah, they're just too far behind. Moving the queen here also threatens their queen, so in this situation, let's say they decided right now to go and play here, which I think would be is okay. We could pin their rook. In this situation, though, it fails. So I should probably choose some other stupid move so I can show how that works. So in this situation, we pin the rook. Anytime you see like a high value piece behind another piece, I always want you to think about how can I pin this? Because any time, like I said, in this instance, it's a queen behind a rook. But it could be a king behind something. There could be a rook behind a knight. Anytime at all you see that sort of situation, your first instinct should be, okay, how can I abuse this pin? So in this case, we could have abused it by getting a free rook out of it. But that is not what happened. They moved their queen out of the way. We finally moved our knight over to e7, which was a kind of a dual-purpose move. One, we're getting ready to castle, and two, we are adding some more defense to this backwards pawn. And at this point, we're totally safe. We finally managed to castle. That's one thing I would warn beginners about, lower-rated players playing the Caro-Kann. In general, especially if you are, if you are in between, 100 and 500 elo, I would really suggest getting in the minor pieces off the starting squares and castling just ASAP, right away, castle as soon as possible. But in the Caro-Kann, a lot of times, you're kind of behind in your ability to castle. You castle a little bit later because it just takes you longer to get your pieces out of the way. And so, that's a little bit tough. Let's see, I'd push the d-pawn for no reason other than to protect the queen. Yeah. This is true. Okay, so they do make it to the 7th rank. the place that all rooks want to be, the 7th rank, but it doesn't really matter in this situation. Everything is so well guarded. You know, I didn't move the A rook over to challenge and hang this pawn. Everything's contained. The queen is in perfect position. The queen's protecting a bunch of pieces here. Yeah, so we're in really good shape. And at this point, our goal was just to I like the French. You know why? Yeah. I've heard the French can be really, really good. I've seen you know, like grandmasters play it on YouTube and stuff. It's solid, obviously, like you're creating that pawn chain super early. I don't prefer it myself just because I don't like locking in the light squared bishop. And I know the idea with the French is that like you're putting your light squared bishop kind of in purgatory for the moment, but eventually it'll get out later in the game, and you're sort of trading off the ability to move it out of the pawn structure in the beginning just for being like super solid. So yeah, I get that. I think it just comes down to personal preference. I think you can get to, I mean, I imagine you can probably get to like 1800 or 2000 with black, regardless of if you're playing the Caro-Kann or the French. I used to think you had to be a little bit smarter about your openings, like by the time getting higher rated, but no, not really. There's lots of like dummies out there. You don't have to overthink it to beat the dummies. Oh. Or fine, leave it in. Leave it in always. I mean, either way, I think you get compensation for the light squared bishop being trapped in the pawn chain just in how solid you are. So yeah, I mean, if it works, continue to do it, you know? So anyway, we really wanted to get rid of this queen because at this point, it's never too late to blunder, and I knew if I could get that queen off the board, if I could get the queens off the board, there would just be no chance for me to blunder. Which is the other reason, I guess, they say when you're ahead at all, just trade down into an endgame, because the more pieces you trade off the board, the less opportunities you have to, like, blunder at all. You just simplify the game. So anyway, we put the king in check after having a think for, I don't know, 45 seconds to a minute, we finally decided, you know, the best way to go about this, since if we move the queen at all, this pawn might get gobbled up, and we just decided to put in check. The only place the king can move to is g2, and then we'd be able to get a fork between the king and the queen and just absolutely threaten a queen trade. They can't deny the queen trade at this point. Either they're going to trade queens or we're just going to take theirs for free. So we traded, and at this point it's finally the end game. So the whole goal is to mobilize your king as soon as possible. So I moved my knight out of the way because at first I was thinking about trying to move my king out this way, but then as we kind of went along, yeah, so I started mobilizing the king. I pushed this pawn just to keep things all locked down. I was going to push this pawn as well if I needed like any reinforcements, but yeah, just start moving the king up. Yeah, knight back to f6. Yeah, king takes. And 1 second, my music I think has stopped playing. There we go. Alright. And anyway, so yeah, from here it's just, the king can't stop both pawns. This is like a runaway pawn situation. It's just one king and we've got two pawns, so they can't really attack one without, like, leaving the other. So if they, for instance, in this situation, they can't really go here or here because of the pawns, and they can't go here because of the knight. So if they did want to somehow attack this knight, I don't know, or the knight, what am I talking about? If they wanted to attack that pawn, they'd have to, like, try to get ahead this way, and at that point I can just start bringing my king in and walking the e-pawn up the board. So you know, there's nothing really they can do. Once they took there, yeah, there was no way to stop, and they resigned. So, yeah, GG. All right, so we played one game, we reviewed it. Let's go and get started with another game. Up at 12-17 right now. I feel like I will probably lose this next game. I'd be okay if I lost the next game. You know, the thing is, it's not... okay, it is all about winning. Because it's a game and it's chess and it's about the winning overall. But overall, I've won the last several games, so I feel like I'm due to give back. And if I do, it's no pressure, you know? I'm still above 1200 elo now. We're still clawing our way towards 1300. As I said at the beginning of the stream, we need to be at 1250 by the end of the month to stay on track for our end of the year goal. And I think we're doing just fine in that regard. So let's go ahead and start another game. This time we get the white pieces. So I'm going to play my sort of pet line, my favorite line, which is the Jabava London, if they let me. So I'm going to play d4, and I'm going to see what they decide to do. Okay, d4, d5. We are going into Jabava now. Very kind of my opponent to say that they're okay with the Jabava London. Alright, they're closing up the pawn chain right away and locking that bishop in. This is my least favorite variant of the Jabava. I would love to see them playing their bishop outside the pawn chain, because whenever you see that happening, you can play f3 and then get a quick pawn storm with g4 chasing the bishop back, followed by h4, and then if they do nothing, h5's incoming, trapping the bishop. Otherwise, you know, they end up getting the bishop to safety, presumably after pushing h6. And then from there, your goal is to trade off that bishop, get your queen up here, start threatening things over on the side of the board. It's a really fun sort of system to go into. But they don't go for all that. So in this situation, we just want to play bishop to f4. We're going to play e3 next, most likely. And then once we've done that, we're just going to get our bishop over to d3, our knight out to probably f3, and we're going to castle kingside. In lines where they don't lock in the bishop, maybe if they went with a Caro-Kann line or try to get their bishop out, and a lot of those lines we end up moving our queen out of the way and we castle queenside instead, just giving more firepower for our kingside attack. So we have a6, which is kind of a waste of time in this line. People are really freaked out of this this knight jump, so I could jump my knight to b5 and be threatening over here with a fork. But the thing is, in this situation, it doesn't really work. In this situation, they can kind of end up blocking it with bishop to d6. Yeah, there's no reason really for it right now. So this is kind of a wasted move, I feel. A little bit. We're going to go ahead and play e3 right now, as planned, because they're not doing anything to disrupt my plan. I do sometimes, in certain lines, have to watch out for, a lot of times they're going to pin that knight. It's just going to happen. And their idea with pinning the knight there is that they're going to jump their knight into e4 and cause some damage on this pinned knight. So that is why in this situation we have two ideas here. They wasted a move there playing a6. We could play a3 and just shut down this idea right away. And actually, to be honest with you, I don't mind that, because if we shut down the idea of them pinning the knight, we're also shutting down future ideas, like this idea of jumping their knight, getting it off the starting square to c6, and jumping in to b4. So we're shutting down kind of a lot of ideas. So I think we might do that first, and then we'll get our bishop developed and just get a bunch of reinforcements pointed at e4, just to make sure that no knight jump there is really possible, okay? It's going to be interesting if the engine sees this good or not at the end. Mr. Fishy might say that this is a complete waste of time for us to play A3. But I'm okay with it under the circumstances. It makes things a little bit more difficult for our opponent. And also, we're ahead in development. Okay, so they're moving their bishop out. Very passive, because, I mean, what else can they do? It does make me think they might end up castling queenside, which would be pretty good, potentially. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. So, yeah, I'm thinking about going over and playing bishop to d3. It's a thematic idea in the Jabava London to have it there. Obviously, getting the other knight is important as well. And I'm kind of taking some time, though, to think before I do that. Is e5 vulnerable? Like, could we do something there with e5? I almost think we could. Because they could end up playing their bishop to d6. And I think positionally, if we're able to get our knight into e5 first, that's just really not great for them. Because they'd have to trade off their bishop for it, and then we could probably retake with the d-pawn and threaten their knight. Their knight's going to have to move then. Yeah, so it's an interesting idea. Of course, if the knight moves, they're probably going to attack my bishop and try to kill it. And there's nothing I can do. But again, this bishop is outside sort of this pawn chain. It's not the most valuable bishop under the position, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. So we're just going to go ahead and jump in there. Now, I didn't clamp down totally on the e4 square, so I guess they could jump their knight in here, but... and at that point, it's on our side of the board. I'd end up taking, they'll retake, they'll threaten my knight, and we'll still end up getting our knight into the center regardless, which could turn into a really horrible trap. You see a lot of like puzzle lines that start off that way, where the knight is here and they try to kick it out, but after moving the queen over to h5, giving check, it kind of ends up in a little bit of a dicey situation. All right, they say they don't want to do any of that. They say they just want to play really solid chess, and I like that. I like the solid chess. Now I'm thinking they're going to castle kingside, and I'm not sure about that idea. Because, I mean, if they castle kingside, I still might have a kingside attack going on. I still might be able to pawn storm kingside. So I don't know. I don't really love the idea of them, for them. I mean, I'm not really a fan of it for their perspective. I feel like for them, castling queenside might make a little bit more sense. If they do end up castling kingside, I'm thinking about playing knight to e5 right then and there, and then maybe trying to push some pawns and dislodge this knight. That looks really, really strong, I think. I feel like if we dislodge this knight, we're threatening h7, where we can either... Oh, yeah. Okay. So we have some options. I also think I could push here. I could push e4, aiming to push e5, and if they take... Oh man, it does get sticky. It does get interesting, because yeah, if I play here and they take here and I retake with the knight, they probably will either retake or be forced to move the knight. If they retake, I take. I'm still threatening a whole lot of nasty intentions over there, but we also can't get like super... we can't get like really fixated on it either. I feel like right now the best in the position might be to just play a knight to e5 and be really annoying. That's a good outpost square for our knight. And then after the knight is moved, maybe from there we move the queen out of the way. And then we have ideas of either castling kingside or queenside. I didn't... Usually in the Jabava London, when they close off their bishop here. Usually, like I said, we end up castling kingside in that situation. But I don't know. I'm just kind of looking, and it looks kind of juicy here with some possibilities. So I'm thinking about jumping here first. So we're going to jump into their position, install our knight on this really juicy outpost square. And then, yeah, we'll see what they do. Also, they could attack this bishop with their knight, because I feel like that's always an idea, and maybe they'll forget now that the knight has moved out of the way and that the queen guards h5. What elo are you at right now, out of curiosity? Okay, that works really well into our favor. If they end up taking, we are going to retake with the knight, and it's going to be bad news bears, I believe, for the enemy queen? King? Enemy queen, what am I talking about? Anyway, I just need to see if that works. So if takes, you can't jump here anymore because it's covered. So you'd have to jump here. Right. And then I guess I can get, let's see, this just looks really horrible. So what I'm calculating right now is the most efficient way to go about my attack. Without the knight here, I could do a bishop sack. That's always like, you know, an idea. But it doesn't work quite as well this time. Usually when you do that bishop sack and the king takes, assuming the knight isn't here, usually your knight is on f3 and you're able to jump it in, give check, and then from there you bring your queen in. It doesn't work though this time because my knight isn't, you know, positioned for this jump. So, I think in this position what I'm going to do is move the queen. I have all kinds of squares that I can kind of envision jumping to. Right now I'm thinking about getting the queen to e2. Just out of the way. It's going to give me options to either castle queenside or kingside, and I'm really looking at castling queenside as a viable option now, just so that I can start to, like, launch an attack on the king side. So we're going to do that, and we're going to see what happens. We also have a lot of pieces pointed over here as well, out of curiously. Alright, so they do go for it. Now, at this point, I do have to retake here. Like, it's definitely happening. And I'm not sure that was good for my opponent. In fact, I think it was pretty horrible. Yeah, I'm not really liking that from them. And now I have to kind of think. Can I get the queen into here? Okay, they go for that. So it's on our side of the board, so we're going to have to take. We are going to end up another pawn ahead. It's just what do we want to take with. At this point, I feel like this is really dangerous for my opponent. So we are going to go ahead. We're not going to spend a long time here. We are going to take and take. And now I'm really thinking about castling queenside, because after castling queenside, our rook is staring down this open file. So this is really good. I can deal with this. So let's see what they do. Oh, he just reached 703. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. We're also staring at that, but I feel like that's a poison pawn. I don't really want to, like, I'm a pawn grabber for sure. I love munching up free pawns as we get towards the end game, but right now I feel like if I take that pawn, it's just giving an open file to my opponent to stick a rook on, and then suddenly I've got some problems over here that I don't want to have, especially if I'm thinking about castling on the queen side, I really don't like the idea. So other things I'm thinking about too, aside from their king safety and poking holes in it, is I feel like we both have a bishop pair, and I really don't want the bishop pair. They spent a move doing that, which is just fine for our sake. They've also locked in their bishop. Yeah, they've locked in the bishop entirely. I'm not sure, but that doesn't look great. It makes me feel like, do I want to castle queenside right now? Or do I just want to pick up the attack? If I move and I play, if I play h5 right now, I'm just looking. They're gonna go there, and we don't really have a continuation after that. I could potentially get my queen into here, but that doesn't look super good. Yeah, I don't really like all of that. I do think castling queenside right now makes a whole lot of sense, because I'm getting a pin going on. Let's see. I am running a little bit low on time, so I have to be aware. There's a part of me that just wants to push. Like, we just push right now. Don't even think about castling, just push. But we can't really do that yet, because if we push there, they'll just take. Oh, granted, they'll take, and then it'll open up the, oh man, that actually looks unbelievable, actually. Hear me out, hear me out. So if I push right now, they might be tempted to take, right? But the thing is, at that point, they're kind of self-pinning, right? Because if they move, if I move to h4, and then they take on h4, I play g3, they have to move, and I have so much now aimed over here. What are you gonna do, right? Oh, that could be all wrong, but it looks pretty good. Or we could just play it safe and castle and then do our plan. Playing it safe and castling might be the thing to do. Okay. I'm gonna castle first. We'll find out later if that's the right move. But we're gonna do that first. And then we're going to play h4 and say, please take it. I've miscalculated. I didn't know you had backup there. So we're gonna try to do a little trick. It might work. It might not. I don't know. They could also do some sacrifices. They could sack over here their bishop, which, yeah, would do a little bit to negate my king's safety, but I don't know if I'm that worried about it. I guess the other thing is that I probably should get a move on, because otherwise they could play f5 and sort of shut things down for this bishop, which would be annoying. I definitely, I mean, I want to get in here, but I don't want to, like, kill the... But also, I guess, if they do something like that and I end up having to play my bishop back, I guess the advantage there is there might come a situation where I'm able to do a discovered check. Or, not a discovered check, but a discovered attack, like on the enemy queen. So, that could be good. Yeah, I don't know if I like that move from my opponent, though. It also feels like now I can just, like, it's a hook, and maybe I can just change up my ideas. Because originally I wanted to push h, but now I'm thinking maybe this is a hook, and I can just push this pawn instead. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ideas. Now I'm also thinking if I take here... If I move up there and offer this, I could just jump directly into here. And thus threaten Yeah, this is... There's some tactics at play, that's for sure. There's a lot of tactics. I'm really liking that idea now that I'm looking at it. So we're going to see what my opponent does, but I really like the idea still of pushing h4. Yeah, so those are my candidate moves right now. I'm either thinking g4 to break up this pawn. They are trying to do a little business over here, which is interesting. Now I'm definitely thinking, like, okay, we have to do something. I'm not in the line of fire, so I think, I mean, yeah, they could take, but I'm not really looking at that. I also am looking at, like, I can just do some sort of sack, and then I win a... Yeah. That looks pretty good. What else looks good? I definitely can get my queen in here. I don't know. We were looking at a reason to sack. I feel like maybe getting rid of that is okay. Yeah, maybe. Well, let's see what happens. If takes, and they take with the rook, presumably that happens. We take the bishop here, and then I'm in on the 7th rank. I want to be in the 7th rank. That looks awesome. Yeah, that looks awesome. We're just going to go and take. I'm not too worried about the rook taking because all this is sort of locked down at the moment, and we open up a line into the 7th rank. If they don't take, then that's a little curious. Like, I feel like they're trying to figure out a reason not to take. They could just sack right away, but I think if they do that, I'm going to probably just do an intermezzo, and that looks really brutal. Kind of like the house is falling, sort of brutal. I like it when the house collapses. If it's not my house. If it is my house, it's not a good deal. But right now it's not my house, it's their house, and I'm fine renovating. Yeah, sure, I'm certified. I'm a certified contractor. I'm insured. Sure I am. Yep. You don't have anything to worry about. You can trust your house to me. Now my opponent is having a bit of a think. I'm sure they see that this bishop is weak, so they are kind of calculating what they want to do. They ended up taking, and we just retake. I think that's probably a bad idea. What happens if we take? That's no good, but that's just another free. Yeah, that's nothing. We just take. Yeah, see, you have good sense. I don't think my opponent right now has the same sense. That's kind of a threatening there, but can't we just move? Actually, we can just move in and threaten checkmate right now, and I don't think it's stoppable. So yeah, that looked really bad. Let's go ahead and just threaten checkmate right now. Yeah, I don't think they can actually stop this. So yeah, go ahead and take that bishop. Take it however you want. I don't think there's a single way for them to save this. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'm going to be really disappointed, and I'll be really grumpy. But I don't think that's happening. I think this is I think they are kind of SOL. They've miscalculated a little bit. So see, me being a chatterbox and talking about the game to you guys is helping. Because in doing that, we are truly, like, evaluating everything. We're looking at a bunch of candidate moves, and we're coming up with all kinds of good ideas together. And yeah, they probably should resign because there's nothing they can do. Yeah, we're just gonna go and take, and then we're just gonna say checkmate. There we go. GG. Wow. So at the end of the month, we need to be at 1250. We are at 1226, man. We are halfway there. That is crazy. All right, let's do a game review. We'll do a game review, and then I am out of time for today after that game review, but it's good to end on a high note. So let's go ahead and review this game. See how we did. What did we get for accuracy, Mr. Fishy? We got, look at that! Oh my god, look at that, guys! We got a 93.7% accuracy. That is fantastic. Alright, 93.7 compared to 66.2, and we are playing, you know, this is at this level, you know. So if you're at a level, if you're at a 700 elo, you just passed 700, I mean, don't worry about it at all. You can get up to where I am, no problem at all. Look at this guy. This guy that's almost 1200 got a 66% accuracy. So yeah, you just play good chess, you can get here. You can beat these guys. Our opening for the Jibava London, we had a 91.6% accuracy and 95.7 in the middle game. That's pretty good. I'm horrible usually at middle games, where I really shine in the openings and the end games. So I will take it. What did my opponent have for accuracy? My big dumb head is in the way. Let me try to move it aside. Okay, 88.2% accuracy for my opponent in the opening, and then yeah, it completely fell apart in the middle game with 39.8. So they wrecked it all in the middle game. Let's go ahead and review what we did, why we did it, and how our opponents responded. This is a real, like, slow and steady wins the race sort of thing. So as a note, I do play a lot of Jibava London because I was playing the London when I was under 1,000, but it's so systematic, I feel, that, like, there are situations where you can get into a lot of trouble being that restricted and that rigid. And the Jibava is really just, like, kind of a starting 3 moves, and then you really have to figure it out from there. So I feel like it offers a lot more versatility. In the line that my opponent chose, it ends up being super, super positional. Because I can show you what I would have loved that they do. I would have loved something like this, where they do a Caro-Kann, because a Caro-Kann like this, you get such a good position. Once they get their bishop there, that's a signal that you play f3, and they can get into a lot of trouble just doing normal things. So they're developing. We are kicking their bishop back. They are going to have to do something with that bishop, right? So they're going to have to either play here or here. Then we're kicking their knight around. Oh my god. Knight has to go home or go over here. Both are incredibly sad. We get our other e3 move in. We play bishop to d3. And if they don't take, and they decide not to take, it's horrible, because after take, guess what? Queen's coming in, you've introduced a huge weakness to your king, you're going to get checkmated fast. So they have to take, we retake. I don't know, what are they going to do? Maybe they do something like this. We push g6. They're either going to have to retake and get into that horrible situation that I was talking about, or else they push to f6, and they have a permanent, like, weakness on the side of the board, a thorn in their side. That's all the stuff I wanted to have happen. Those are the most fun Jibava lines. King's Indian solid. If you can play it well, I mean, yeah, go with that. I find that a lot of beginners aren't super good at the King's Indian, just because it's well, it's not really a hyper-modern, but it's still in terms of, like, openings that don't directly fight for control of the center. You're kind of, like, getting situated first and then later pushing in the center. So, I've seen some beginners run into trouble with it, but if it works for you, that's really good to hear. It's definitely a very solid opening. Alright, so anyway, we didn't get what we wanted. We ended up, but we still played the Jababa, you know. It's just when this sort of thing comes up, we know that we're not going to be able to do a crazy Palm Storm on the king side. We're most likely going to castle on the king side. So anyway, all this stuff is pretty standard. The Fishy didn't mind this. Yeah, Stockfish didn't mind A3. Little Fishy said that was okay. Didn't say it was the best move. I'm guessing it, I mean, I think it's a slow move, and they would have continued. They would have preferred that I continued with my development with bishop out or knight out, and just say, like, okay, well, I've got 3 pieces developed, you've got 1, what are you doing now? Probably. But anyway, I think it was a good prophylactic move, just stopping a whole lot of counterplay from our opponent, so I'm okay doing it. Yeah, we got our knight to f3, and we got our bishop to d3. I think the little Fishy wanted us to do things in the opposite order and get our bishop out first and just overprotect e4 first. Makes sense. But I wanted the ability to jump into e5 in this situation, which the engine also likes. Okay, so we're up there. We kind of waited on castling. We could have castled right away, but we sort of delayed in the situation to see what our opponent was doing. So we got our queen out of the way just to give us the versatility to castle in any direction. They decided to take in the center. I really think this was a bad move for them. So if you look, like, at the moment, it's pretty dead even, you know, it's about 50-50 here. No side is really ahead, but you see after these moves, now we are 1 point up. So yeah, probably not a great move from our opponent, inducing us to take on e5 like that. I just don't think they really thought it all through, which is fine. I'm not complaining. Yeah, they want to give us advantages. That's just fine. So yeah, nothing much to do here. We didn't have to think too long on this. We just retook with our knight. I wanted to keep the bishop pair for attacking, especially since we were blowing the center wide open. Once the center's, like, busted open, having a bishop pair is really valuable. So yeah, we're just a pawn up. Here they played c6, and we kind of thought about it at this point, right? We thought, like, okay, well, maybe we could instantly sack our bishop, maybe on h7, give that Greek gift, maybe move our queen in there immediately, maybe we can play h4, inducing them to take, and have some shenanigans. I really was wondering about this sort of move here, because I just felt like that would be a great way to open up the position. Fishy doesn't even like it, though. What does Fishy like in response? Now the Greek gift. Okay, well that makes sense, because once we do the Greek gift, they retake now. Now it truly is a pin. We're pinning the bishop to the king, so we're gonna win the bishop. I don't know. So instead of doing that, we castled, which was the best move. Which just goes to show, sometimes it's good to just, when you're thinking about doing something really crazy, give it a little bit extra time. Because, as it turns out, being safe and castling was the best move here. So, yeah, don't get too eager. At this point, we have a huge, like, 3-point advantage that the engine is giving us. So just, yeah, massive edge over our opponent here. They played f5, and remember we were talking about that too, like that it would be a really good move for our opponent to play, and they found it. So because we knew that might come, we already said, look, if they do that, we're bring our bishop back to d3, no big deal. And maybe then later it can be used in some discovery attacks. And sure enough, like 3 moves later, it was used in a discovery attack. So it's like the opponent did a lot of things in this game that looked logical, but in a lot of ways they were just helping us. So yeah, they were being really nice. I super appreciate this opponent. They're really nice. I should send them a message. Nah, I shouldn't do that. But anyway, okay, so we continue here. Queen going over to b6. This is an inaccuracy. I thought it was kind of silly. Like, if the king was on b1, this would be a completely different story, and I'd have to take this threat seriously, because then they could go ahead and take on a3. I wouldn't be able to retake, because the king would be pinned, and I would lose the game shortly after. But this isn't that situation. If they want to take on a3 now with their bishop, go right ahead. I'm going to retake. You want to get your queen in to start threatening my king? I will just run my king over to the king side, and I will be just fine. Your thoughts about red pandas changed? Or hopefully not on the home renovations. Hopefully you're still not thinking about letting me do that. Alright, so queen over there. Yeah, and we found the best move here. Again, we were thinking just a couple moves before that we'd be able to set up some sort of discovery attack, and sure enough, that's what we did. We sacked, and we were able to get the bishop on to the 7th rank, and we saw just how powerful this was. As soon as we got the... Did I say bishop up on the 7th rank? Whatever. Words. As soon as we got the rook up on the 7th rank and attacked that bishop, everything fell apart then, because it's just too powerful having rooks on the 7th rank. They should have never really allowed it. The engine just, really loves what we're doing. Here, again, I think they got frazzled. That happened in the last game we played as well. We made a move, when we were playing the Caro-Kann, we attacked in the center and got the better of our opponent, and our opponent just lost their mind and decided that our queen had to die for the insolence. And because they were so concentrated on the queen, they just blundered it all. This one, same deal. They, obviously, my guy, your bishop is hanging. We didn't immediately snap it up because it's still good to look for tactics and make sure we're not missing anything. I wanted to make sure that there wasn't some sort of shenanigans that they could pull down the D file if we just give it up. But the thing is, there are no shenanigans that they can pull. The D file is pretty well defended overall, at least in terms of my king's safety. So yeah, we just went ahead and took best move, and we saw again then they played G5, another mistake, another very weakening move, and now you can see no matter what at this stage, no matter what, it's a checkmate in 5 moves. Even if they do everything they can, it's checkmate. You don't push pawns in front of your king, but they were so worked up over what I did that they just one blunder became another. And it's amazing. Like I said, this isn't just beginner level chess. This isn't just under 1000 elo chess. This happens all the time. I'm kind of waiting for it to stop happening. I watch some players that are around the 2000 elo rating, and this stuff still happens at 2000 elo. It's just insane to me. I can't even believe it. But anyway, so we played Queen H5, which is the best move. They took, and yeah, that was the wrong move. They had to try to prolong things, but I mean, it was just hopeless at this point. So yeah, we got our checkmate in, and GG's. Okay, so that's it for today. That's all the time I have for today. Officially, my next scheduled streams aren't until the end of the week, but I will be streaming throughout the week, probably in the evenings. Not tomorrow. I have D&D tomorrow. I've got obligations, but the rest of the weeknights, there's a fair chance that I'll be back and doing some more chess, so I hope you join me. If you haven't already, please shoot me a follow here on Twitch. It really helps out. I'm trying to get to 25 followers so that I can get affiliate status, which will unlock emotes and all of the other fun things that larger Twitch streamers get. So super excited about that. Hope you all enjoyed watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, awesome. Good to hear. All right, you guys take care. I'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.